Abatrons on More Gravity. Let's play chess. So first of all, since I just finished this game, I'm gonna review this game of chess I just played, not actually playing more chess live. I played, whoops, yeah, I played 3 games of chess against this opponent from Colombia, Curloman, and we'll set these two. Looks like we both played well in the first game, and he played a very accurate game. Curloman sure did. And in game two, what did I slip up with a checkmate? No, this is he's just uh, sort of a gradual game. I'm saying that my opponent, as white, started fairly even, and then he gradually increased his lead. And in the last game of our 3 game set, man, wild. This game here, I had white for the second time, totally wild. Um, as one of the games that you live to win as a chess player, quite frankly. Uh, so, without further ado, we're going to review this most recent game first, and then probably go over the other two a little bit more briefly, but not to forget about them entirely. This goes here. This is the most recent game, and yes, I'm very glad here to see that the winning side had high accuracy. The losing side had lower accuracy, but you always see that. You very often, not always, you often see that, and I can attest to you that Curlo Man played a fantastic game, all 3 games, and I'm glad that I was able to win one of them, and that being the third. I said, that's me for tonight in chess. I'm out, and I'm gonna, in a few minutes, I'm gonna eat a popsicle. Okay, we'll start in review and we'll probably move into the analysis. This formation is becoming more and more well known for me. We usually, in this opening, will be playing knight c3 purposefully at a time where it attacks uh, the queen at d5. Gain a tempo, develop with a gain of tempo. So then why does black go for this? Because look at black back to d8 is the recommended move for me. Sometimes we see queen a5, but back to d8, as my opponent played, is quite fine. Why would black cede to white a lead in development and the turn to move? Mostly for a dynamic imbalance. I'm wondering if anyone from the peanut gallery could speak to that. Look at all this open space. I have to exercise my finger muscles to get all this open space. Boom, 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 boom. This actually is now unlit. Look at that. This is why black gives up a little bit of development, one move of development to white. It's going to lead to a dynamic imbalance. Bishop f5. The conventional wisdom is knights first, and I think maybe this is the thing to do here as well. I don't think bishop f5 really lose outright. It looks like white might be able to gobble a pawn, win a pawn somehow, according to the progress bar run by Torch 4. And then I played pawn to d5, so this miss is because I missed some kind of serious pawn grab. Maybe queen b3 hits at multiple targets at once, so that follows the principle of 2 weaknesses. And it's clear that white is going to play bishop c4 and have a good game. It looks a little bit like knight at the opera, though this will not be knight at the opera because of how the initial moves were set. Let's take a closer look. Where was the mistake here, Jord? That's me when I'm not more gravity. All right, so practice versus computer. The computer is saying that white can do better than the move I played. And is it white's turn to move here? No, yeah. Okay, white can play. I think the move is going to be queen to b3. All right, so queen to b3 is good, but not best. Bishop c4 first was best, but we could pretty much. Okay. Let's try. Then that check changes the evaluation. Bishop to c4. and now we'll just hit. It looks like developing and getting castled are priorities for white. Thank you, Torch 4. That was awesome. Pawn to d5 and bishop to b4 is indeed the that's springing the trap, but not in a good way for black, because after bishop to b4, queen to a4 check, and we have multiple ways to gain material here as white. First, if certain moves deal with the check but leave the bishop en prise. Other moves protect the bishop but lose a piece to a pawn, and perhaps even more after queen takes c6. That's most of it. That's pretty much the thrust of things here. And other moves that block the check still aren't dealing with the fact that the bishop on b4 is ripe for the taking here. So white's up a bishop, and black shows tenacity, strength, calculation. I really admire the moves my opponent played. And to be honest, I think this was a great move for me. Queen g4. Again, principle of two weaknesses, but also keeping in mind exceptions to normal piece movement. What to say? That it looks like the bishop would capture the queen, but the bishop is pinned to his king. Even if it's in the direct way like this, it's still a pin that prohibits the bishop from capturing this queen. He must not leave and allow that to be the end of the game, because it's white's turn and black is in check. He must not leave by the rules of chess, so he's there. So I kind of factored that in, and then I saw eventually queen takes g7 with the subsequent threat of queen takes h8, and it looks like queen to g4, white is doing well with a protected and advanced pawn staking out the center. The bishop can't capture, it's pinning opponent. Well, yeah, I suppose he could, but there'd be, for one, knight takes b5 in response, or for two, queen takes g7, showing that this is a very flexible moment for white. I'm not, if the bishop captures on b5, then I'm not even sure that white would capture back right away. Maybe capture on g7. Then I guess the queen could come to f6. Queen for queen here on f6. And then finally, knight captures b5. And if I have this right, all told, white wins a pawn, except for maybe knight captures on d5. It's even. That's a rather that's kind of a that's an advanced tactic situation. Moves deep, different things to consider. This is kind of a bit advanced. This is a bit advanced. Now, so my opponent played knight f6. Because there aren't. It's not a bad move because partly there aren't all that many great moves here. I was wise to liquidate on d7 before going in for anything on g7. And you know what? I said that could go queen to g7, and we'd see, as my opponent has shored up his f6 knight so very strongly, I could take out the pawn, and I wouldn't feel comfortable that much because of rook to g8. And then the queen has to, I think any moves are bad. All moves are bad except for queen h6. And then if black wants to, he can capture on g2. And this is not looking great for white with the loss of the pawn. He just went up and a really strong rook, and queen to e7 check, and then it's queenside castles for black. That I didn't want to go in for that. So instead of all that, I said, you know what, I am in the lead here by a full piece. We revert back to our usual winning way when you're ahead a piece. Queen to e2 check, prompts a variety of potential responses. None of them are good for black. Lost piece, queen trade, moving the king before it's really time for him to move, and in a way that's not castle, and in a way that's at least somewhat unsafe. Okay, so all these moves options for black, they're all bad. Not in the same way each one, but they're all bad. Jadon, that's my name without an R, and we play king to king to f8 is the best of those moves, frankly. The queen trade is not decimated. It's 1/10. The queen trade, it's dooming for black. The queen trade here is not good for black. Losing pieces, we already know that that's not good. As the queen blocks the rook's ability to skewer queen and king on the e-file, I decided to go ahead and get my dark squared bishop into play, and how better than with a really awesome pin on the f6 knight. c5. I have this old idea. When en passant is possible, it's usually the right move. I don't know why. It's or at least okay. So, but here, pawn to c5, capturing by way of pawn takes c6, EP, and that's it. Here we see d takes c6. It's just a d takes c6 EP. Some check with your tournament director, check with your federation. Sometimes are to write EP at the end of it to indicate an en passant capture most directly. And then it captures back. I mean, now white is doing very well here. 3 pawn islands, and there's no tactics on the e-file, at least until black's queen gets out of the way of the a8 rook. I mean, maybe technically, 1, 2, 3 moves later, but more realistically, the queen would move out of the way, and rook to e8 has to be minded by white. It will. In fact, it already, in some ways, it already was. Knight to f3, I was minding this rook skewer, potential rook skewer, by preparing a good, safe castle. I think in the end of the game, I decided on the castle to the other side, not because it was the safer of the two castles, but because castle and queenside here patches way too many holes for white. We're minding b2 strongly, and we have to keep in mind that it is in a strong way that we are minding b2. But then also there's this issue of the rook on the d-file being extremely strong, and maybe in some versions a rook sacrifice for an exchange sacrifice on d7 should be considered often enough. Something along the lines of rook takes d7, knight takes d7, and then like queen to e7 check, and then things are looking not all that sunny and happy for black as he steps into potential back rank checkmate issues. And so for this reason, I think my opponent did well to play h6. I'm telling you, I'm really impressed by my opponent, Curlo Man. Pawn to h6, an awesome move. International Master Josh Waitzkin teaches on Chessmaster 10 Grandmaster Edition. Accelerate your opponent's plans. So from black's point of view, a6 will accelerate my plans. I have plans against this knight, and black knows it, and h6 sort of says, get on with it. So we do exchange bishop for knight, and then after knight recaptures, it's a little bit better than the situation that would have occurred if rook captured on d7. So it's good. It's a subtle move. It's not the happiest move. He's not capturing 3 queens in 3 successive moves or anything like that. But it's still the best move. It's showing that my opponent is fighting on with fighting spirit, even in a mostly losing, or at least with a strong disadvantage on the chessboard itself. Rook d2, another great move. I'm preparing to, and now am doubling. We always have to keep just a little bit of our mind on how many pieces. This b2 is so very weak and important that we have to have at least probably 2 pieces minding it, or it doesn't, not necessarily that it's down to the exact amount that has to be, but keeping this situation in mind during all our calculations. King g7. I played here knight rook d6. In retrospect, I think queen e6 might be even stronger, except then maybe rook to e8. Yeah, okay. No, I believe I played a fine move in the game. Probably the best move in the game. Rook d6. The sixth rank. Let's go back a move. The 6th rank in this position. Jay Wild, More Gravity, Dr. Jordan Wyatt. The 6th rank in this position is where all the targets are. Boom, boom, boom. The 6th rank is just like bleeding with targets. So I said, why blunder a rook on d7 when I can extend? Why blunder a rook on d7 when I can instead play rook to d6 where all the targets are? A little bit of a tongue-in-cheek there, but yeah, rook to d6 is a good move. It's the best move on the board, and I was glad to have played it. Rook to c8. You want to see a little more desperation, but the rook can't be desperate on a8, at least not quite right away. I think, rook to b8. Now that would have been interesting with the checkmate threat should the queen venture somewhere without a check, or I think rook b8 was a stronger move here for black. And rook to c7 is not the end of the world, except for what's already been damaged on the board. So queen moves to e5. Black will lose the knight on the next move. And it was one of the best chess games that I've ever won. Whew. I believe this is the same game. This is the same game with, I think it might just be a duplicate window, in which case, yeah, I think this is pretty much a duplicate window. So let's close it. They both have, yeah, so we'll close this one, I suppose. And here, yeah, this was the game I mentioned. My opponent won a very gradual, a very gradual and naturally proceeding chess game. Oh, I had a prolonged. Yeah, all right. No, yeah, I played gutsy moves here, but ran out of horsepower, as they say, ran out of steam. I think we have a situation of multiple queens soon enough. Black is completely lost, but continues on because his queen's on the board. And it's over. I timed out here. I was trying to rush to get bishop takes d8 in on time. Not that it would have been. Yeah, no, it's just. I think bishop to d8, and then I'm sure white has queen e7 or queen e8 check, and on the forced response, king to h7, and there's like, other checks coming. So that was a grand game as well. This was a grand game as well, my friends. Um, uh, Trading off intangibles, handling intangible trade-offs. Uh, I mean, I did my part just by playing the King's Gambit, but also pawn to d4. I'm giving away another, I'm giving away a pawn in exchange for kind of a prolonged attack, just a prolonged attack of indefinite nature or indefinite direction. No, might have been easy. Or you even would think of queen takes c7 because after bishop takes c7, knight takes d4 check is very strong. I don't think it's quite called for, but let's give it a look just for the old Girl Scout, Boy Scout, whoever Scout try here. The queen c7 is actually more on. It's the third best move here for black, so it's to be considered. But white is also doing well overall by Torch 4's recommendation. Interesting. And I think we already saw this game kind of. Yeah, we did. Okay, with the multiple queens soon enough. All right. I timed out there. What do we have here? We saw this, and I'd like to look at my opponent's other win. This was my win. This was his first win. Okay, this we did not sample moves from yet. Move with the music. I think we're allowed to do this. That's an old pseudonym. My opponent has played has played more than 10,000 games. And you like sometimes to see the distribution of how many games are in which time controls. Yeah, okay. Alright, that's cool. I sent a friend request. Why did I say that? No, it's good because he's played many games, so if I send a friend request, then it's likely to be... There could be matches built upon that. And like I said, I already like this guy. Alright, this time I had white and lost, and I believe this is was this the first of our encounters? Yes. I think the first game, did I pretty much just get my butt kicked? Okay, let's see what happened here. So white gets off to a pretty darn good start here. It's here with white to move. We have this huge concentration in the center, helping our armies be mobile. And we built up some really gutsy pawn storm moves early. I think my opponent is just just a little bit too up to the task of this mistaken piece sacrifice on h6. It's not really a sacrifice, as the bishop captures back, then comes soon thereafter pawn to g5, attacking both minor pieces. So I'll get the piece back, but I think it's just the mistake. This has a mistake, but this move is I want to say a lot more dynamic than just to say, oh, that's a mistake. Uh, Let me see if I can say that or not. Our computer overlords here say that, okay, so the return bishop takes h6 is about a half pawn overall better that for black than even, better than even. Usually, by the way, when I report something like that, when I say better, I'm usually saying better than even. So h takes g7, and white's just a little bit too crazy with this another piece sacrifice. Even though the first one had the material work out, g5 is ignoring the threat against the knight on c3 in a way that's a little bit unnecessary, let's say. And so I would say to my old self, if I were in this position with white to move, knight d5 looks pretty darn good. Queen takes d4 looks really good. Yeah. This is that queen takes d4 because of the pin on f6, and then there's dynamic possibilities. My opponent has to find pawn to e5. This is the beginning of an attack. Instead, I played the overly aggressive move, g5. I lost a knight, but regained it back, and then the attack continues. But there's not enough power behind the attack to really to succeed. I think it justifies a good look and a try, but it didn't succeed. So my opponent's playing some really smart chess. Like I said, moving the queen off of her post at d2 here. I was expecting queen takes c3, and it occurred. That's exactly queen takes c3 is exactly what happened. I want to see white lose a piece on e5, and the game is for black here to be accurate, because inaccurate chess here, rook to, what did he play? Say it was rook to c8. And then let's say even weirder, I played pawn to f3, and then now into the realm of absurd, rook to c5. So there's quite a few ghost moves to make my point here, but the point still stands that under certain circumstances, queen to h8 check, and then king to g6, white will find queen to h7 checkmate. That didn't happen. Black played quite accurately and pushing white to one side or the other, limiting escape square opportunities, and checkmate on f2. That was a great game my opponent and I played. So I had a blast. I hope some of my viewers did as well. Thank you for watching. Thank you, Gravitrons. I'm more gravity. Have a great night.